We all know Dora the Explorer, a girl who, no matter how much you yell at her to do something, won't listen to you. Do you like this? Right there, to your right. But what if I told you that behind that innocent cartoon, there are theories so dark they'll make you see Dora with a disturbing sense of fear? Today, I'll present to you some of the darkest theories behind this animated series. From witchcraft, curses and transformations to mental illnesses, let's begin with the darkest theories about Dora the Explorer. Now let's move on to a completely chilling theory about Zorro, which says that Zorro is a forest demon and his intention is only to cause chaos. And they relate it to the story of a fox that was actually a demon. This story talks about how a nun lost a church key and days later found it in the mouth of a dead fox. So this sounds a lot like Swiper from Dora the Explorer, and the way to scare him off is by saying the phrase, "Swiper, no swiping." This would connect with the real life story where they drove him away with prayers so he would never come back. And this brings us to the theory that says the map wants to kill Dora. Do you ever pause to consider why? Always? The paths Dora takes have obstacles that could even end her life? Well, actually, friends, maybe the map wants to break free from Dora the witch's spells. And the only way they can return to their normal bodies is by ending Dora's life. Literally, on the map, we can see the paths that Dora could take to avoid a lot of things that threaten her life. But apparently, the map always chooses the most dangerous way. So that maybe, on one of those occasions, she finally makes it and all the magical objects can return to their real bodies. I don't know, friends, what do you think? But friends, it's not just Dora who has hidden secrets. Next on the list is backpack. At first glance, it looks like a normal backpack. It's just a purple backpack with a happy face always there, ready to help Dora. But there are people who claim that Dora's backpack is actually cursed by an old spirit. And this actually makes sense. The backpack is able to summon various objects in order to help Dora. Just like that, magically and out of nowhere. But what would happen if at some point Dora picks the wrong object? Because the backpack shows them to her but doesn't actually tell her which one to pick. What if it's a constant test for Dora? And what if she makes a mistake? Does she just die in a tragic way? Or even worse, does she pay for the pact with her soul? We already saw that Dora is possibly a witch or has some kind of mental illness. And if we think more about all the animals and colors that appear, we might think that Dora has some kind of psychosis, which could explain all the adventures and colors that Dora sees. Until she meets a monkey and a backpack, she spends her days adventuring, the ones that may just be in her head. Even Botas could be her doctor who accompanies her just to make sure nothing happens to her and watches her for her treatment. She might also have a terminal illness. That's why she imagines all her adventures with her toys. And among them, there's a monkey, a fox, and a doll that represents her. That's because she can't leave the house and spends all her days imagining what she could do outside. Could it have been one of those cases of children who are born with such a big head? And would that explain the disproportion in her body? Each of the main characters has a story behind them, and after hearing them, I'm sure you won't see them the same way as before. The first theory I'm going to talk to you about involves Dora. And even though Dora seems like a harmless girl, maybe we shouldn't trust her. Well, she could be a witch, and this theory actually connects to another one that's even more terrifying. But first, let's analyze why this theory says that Dora is a witch. And it starts with her two friends, Backpack and Map. Have you ever wondered how these two are alive? Both Backpack and Map can talk. And this might seem childish until you analyze all the details. They are two objects that have their own consciousness. How the heck do you achieve that? Unless you make a pact with the devil. Also, if you notice, Dora recites a spell every time she asks the kids to repeat what she says. It's like she's recruiting the kids for her cult. And this gets even scarier when we realize that we were all part of this at some point. That would also explain why the map and the backpack talk and help her on her adventures. It's believed that Dora gave them life so they could help her achieve her goals. For example, so she could get something she wanted. And she starts singing the backpack song, and then her backpack appears to give her items that will help her on her adventure. The curious thing is that the backpack only appears when Dora recites this spell. Coincidence? Is she basically summoning the backpack? Tell me if that doesn't seem kind of demonic to you, now that we think about it. And the same thing happens with him. But do you remember I told you it was connected to another theory? Well, the next theory revolves around Botas, that cute monkey who goes everywhere with her. But maybe he wasn't always a monkey. Some people say that maybe Dora, in her role as a witch, transformed Botas to make him her loyal follower. Just like Gru with the minions, that's why Botas, being an animal, can still talk. Physically he's a monkey, but in his mind he's still a child. Or even a man trapped with no choices, condemned to follow a girl on her schizophrenic adventures. And this opens the door to the next theory. And just like Boots, Swiper could have once been a normal man who tried to steal something from the witch Dora. And was that enough for Dora to curse him, turning him into a fox? Since the fox as an animal is often associated with thieves, because these animals are clever and capable of deceiving people. An example of this can be seen in Ban, of the 7 deadly sins of all the sins. He is known as the fox of greed, and to survive he had to steal. Because of all this, we can see how the fox constantly tries to steal from Dora. And that's because Dora, in her famous backpack, might have the potion to turn him back to normal, to become human again. But Dora keeps him away with a spell saying, "Swiper, no swiping!" And the next theory also tells us that Dora, instead of being a witch, might be suffering from some kind of dementia. Why? Because while we watch her adventures, Dora forgets things a lot. That's why the episodes become so repetitive. We already have the experiences from previous episodes, but Dora doesn't. It's something like what happens to people with schizophrenia. In their delusional moments, they can do terrifying things, but afterwards they completely forget about it. So Dora probably has some kind of schizophrenia that makes her hallucinate all these characters, but the reality is that Dora is in a mental institution. The scariest thing is that this mental illness only develops after experiencing some pretty severe trauma and not being able to process it. And that, my friends, only Dora knows. Some say her parents were involved in drug trafficking. And that's why we have Dora and her family in the middle in the forest. Because they're hiding from something bad they did in the past, maybe for things that were so horrible. That Dora saw. She was so traumatized that she became schizophrenic. But let's move on to the next theory, which is one of the most popular. We already talked about the possible schizophrenia that Dora might suffer from, but there's also the possibility that Dora is blind. And they give us a lot of signs that point to this. Really? How many times does Dora have to ask to know where things are? Dora, we can see it, it's right behind you, just turn around. And honestly, it even seems like she's deaf, because you have to repeat it to her more than once. Maybe she doesn't have any kind of dementia, but she definitely needs a stronger pair of glasses. No matter if things are right next to her, she never sees them by herself. What seems to be an animated series actually has a series of dark theories behind it. Is Dora a witch? Is she trapped in her own mind? Or is she simply a little girl with an imagination so powerful that she created an entire world to escape her horrible reality? What do you think? Tell us what you think in the comments box. Don't forget to like and subscribe so you don't miss any of our future videos.